Hi, we're going to look at some more advanced number skills. We're going to look at using fractions to solve direct proportion problems, and more specifically recipe, currency, time and distance problems. Let's begin with a straightforward direct proportion problem. It takes 2.5 litres of paint to cover 18 metres squared of wall. How much paint to cover 42 metres squared? Right, we start by looking at the key bit of information, one that refers to the question. This is information about the question. This is what I'm trying to find, the amount needed to cover 42 metres squared. So it becomes the first thing I write down. Now, what's the other bit of information in this whole question that has the same units? Well, it's 18. So that becomes a second bit of information I write down, and I write it down as the denominator of the fraction. I then multiply that by. Here we go. Here's the third bit of information I haven't used. So it's 2.5. I get my calculator, and let's just get it on. What's it? Menu. That's right. And then execute. Don't worry. You want to be far simpler, I'm sure. Now I type in 42 over 18. Newer calculators will have a button that has two rectangles separated by a fraction line, and they'll have a better screen. It'll actually show 42 above 18. And times it by 2.5 to give me 5.8, and then lots of threes. So it looks like 3 recurring. Now I'm going to round my answer to 2 decimal places. So I put a figure above, an arrow above the figure I'm keeping, and get rid of all the others. Now the key thing here is the first figure I cross out. If it's 3 or if it's 5 or more, the figure I cross out, then this last figure, this one here, goes up by 1. But if it's 4, 3, 2, 1 or 0, this last figure doesn't change. So in this instance it doesn't change. So here's my answer, 5.83. And what are the units? They're litres, and it's to 2 decimal places. Right, now let's see that use of fractions to solve a recipe problem. Now there's 2 questions here. We have opening information that, here we go, there's a recipe for 4 people. It's 150 grams of salt and 600 millilitres of water. Let's do a part 1 first. How much salt for 7 people? That's the key information. That's the first thing we write down. Now, what's going to go underneath that as part of our fraction? Well, we look in the beginning of the question and look at the information. Oh, hang on. The one with the same units, the number with the same units is 4. So that goes beneath our 7. Now we're going to multiply it by what? Well, is it going to be 150 or is it going to be 600? Well, we're trying to find out the amount of salt. And here we go. This 150 grams refers to the amount of salt. So that's the thing we write down next. We'll start putting the units in. Get the calculator out. Clear what you didn't, what you had from your previous one. So it's 7 over 4 times 150 equals. Now it's given as an improper fraction. We'll convert that to a decimal by using the fraction at the decimal button. 262.5, and the units per grams. Part 2. How much water for 3 people? So 3 is the first bit of information, the key bit of information. Looking again at the beginning of the question. 4 people, so that's got the same units as 3 people. So that becomes the second number we use. And we multiply it by now. We're trying to find the amount of water, so it's going to be the 600 milliliters of water. And just show you that in action. It's clear, previous work, so it's 3/4 times 600. There we go, 450 milliliters. Right, similar approach to solving currency problems. The exchange rate is £1 for $1.24. And the 2 subparts are how many dollars for £16 and how many pounds for $42. Let's start with subpart 1. How much for £16? So that's the first thing we write down. That's going to be the numerator of a fraction. Going to the beginning of the question, where's the information with the same units? It's here. It's 1. So it's going to be 16 over 1 times. Where's the information we haven't used? Here it is, 1.24. And if we put the units in, we'll know the units of our answer. So it's going to be 16 over 1 times 1.24 There we go, $19.84. Now part 2 is asking us to find how many pounds for $42. $42. So that's the key bit of information. That's what we write down first. So if we look at our beginning of the question and the opening line of information, the number with the same units is 1.24. So that's the second thing we write down, and that becomes the denominator of the fraction. What haven't we used? In this instance, we haven't used the 1. Or if we put the units in, it won't confuse us as to what the units of the answer are. Let's clear everything, so we get 42 over 1.24 times 1. 33.87096, well, I can't remember all that. 33.870. 33.870. Why didn't I need any more information? Well, because I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places. So my arrow goes above here. So I'm only interested when I cross out all the other figures as to what is the first one crossed out. Well, the first one crossed out is 0. Now, if you remember from earlier, that means we don't change this last figure. So the answer is 33.87, and the units would be pounds. Right, now, our last one. Direct proportion problem. This time it involves distance and time. But it's got the complication we need to give the answer in hours and minutes. Right, here we go. Let's just get the answer in hours first. We're trying to find the amount of hours it takes to travel 240 miles. So that's our first bit of information and the top of our fraction. Where's the information with the same units? Here it is, 190. Where's the bit of information we haven't used? Well, it's here written in words. It's 3. So that's my calculation. And I do 240 over 190 times 3. And I get the... Now, it's given me the answer as an improper fraction. Most calculators have got the ability to change that. Now, if we look on this one here, it's the one in yellow. So I've got to press Shift first, and then it's converting to mixed numbers. And the answer as a mixed number is 3 and 15 over 19 hours. By this stage, you'll have picked up quite a few working and method marks. But the question quite specifically asked for the time in hours and minutes. So the answer is 3 hours and, well, 15/19 of an hour. What's that in minutes? Well, I have to do this quick calculation. I've got to work out 15/19 of 60 minutes, which is what an hour is. So, clear that. 15 over 19. The word of is times 60. Again, it's given as an improper fraction. Let's change that to a mixed number. So it's 47 and 7/19. I'll just double check that. The old memory's going. Yep, 47 and 7/19 minutes. And if it was a higher level paper, I might actually ask you for the answer in seconds. Then you would take this bit here and you multiply it by the number of seconds in a minute. Okay, so that's how we can use fractions to solve direct proportion problems, and specifically some examples on recipe, currency, time and distance problems. Okay, thank you for listening.